Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. Mac, this weekend, I know you're very busy. You're hitting the road. You're heading to Raleigh. You're probably going to pass some Ingles on your way, so I know you're blessed in that regard. This is one of those couch weekends for me. As you know, I love just chilling, watching every game imaginable, having multiple screens, and going to Ingles to get what I need. We love little chips and dip. We love a little kind of mini cheese board to do, for some of the games. So I'll probably be leaning that way, Mac.
Come on. Why wouldn't you? Well, we got after it a lot this week, actually. I'm pretty proud of us. We were cooking an absolute ton, which was so much fun. On Tuesday, of course, we did Taco Tuesday. I don't know if you saw those, but I did a little street taco.
They look
so
good.
Unbelievable. It's one of my favorite things to make, and it's so easy. Like we make a house salsa verde type thing. It's so good. Went with a skirt steak this time, which actually I like better. Sometimes I'll do a flank steak. It's just a little more chewy to me. So we went with the skirt steak, which again, Ingles, like the choices are unbelievable. It's the best meat in town. So you can't go wrong. Some people like to do ribeye. I just think street tacos, you like to do, the different kind of cuts there, which was so much fun. Did a little stir fry, which is great. Easy, bunch of vegetables, throw them all in there. And then last night we actually did this soup that was so good because it's starting to get a little cold. It's not cold, a little chilly, which was super fun. So we were, blowing it down this weekend, getting after it. And again, tailgating, you're home gating, KG. You got to be ready and you got to get after it.
It's the best. It really is. And it's the best to actually tailgate. Excited for that the next weekend. But Mac, I knew you were getting after it. I could tell the Instagram story was popping and getting all those things from Ingles. So we only have 6 games this week. I can't believe it. Let's get to a message from Ingles and then we'll get into all these games.
Did you know Ingles only sells USDA Choice and Prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Okay, Mac, let's get into our big 3 breakdown this weekend. And we're going to start with Clemson and Wake Forest. Number 10, Clemson is at Wake Forest, Saturday noon on ESPN. Clemson is a 20-point favorite. When I think about this matchup, there are so many ways we could go here. I think about the game 2 years ago in Winston-Salem. That was a crazy game. It was still the Sam Hartman-led Deacons, and there were so many points scored. Both secondaries struggled and were pretty much lit up. It was a really exciting game. And then I think of last year's game, which I think a lot of people have forgotten about, that Clemson won 17-12. It was hideous in Death Valley. Klubnik was 18 of 28 for 131 yards, and Damon Claiborne had 19 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Clemson escaped. I don't know if you can have 2 more opposite previous matchups with the last 2 games between these two, Mac.
Right. And then, you even look further than that, and it's just like carnage. Like Clemson just blows them out, not even close. So it is super weird. And last year, I remember how bad that game was, and a great game by Wake. Hanging in there. Yeah, great game by Wake, terrible game by Clemson. And it is going to be interesting because I think this Wake team is better than a year ago. But obviously, I think this Clemson team is significantly better as well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what we do. 20 is such a big number, but I said that against Stanford. I said that against NC State. I said it against App State. And Clemson just cover after cover after cover, covered against FSU again on the road last week as well. So that's what Clemson's doing right now. They're covering, and they're back. So you got to think that, this offense is really going to take advantage of a Wake defense that's just not very good. It's just a statistical fact. They are 100 plus in a lot of categories. It's not, one of those games, KG, where, you expect Clemson to be able to do their thing however they want to offensively, throwing it, running it, scoring it. which I know Clemson fans are going to be excited about because they didn't really see that in regards to scoring touchdowns last week against FSU. So, it'll be interesting to see there. Again, Cade doing his thing, continuing to grow. One of the best QBRs in the country. Have seen him on a lot of Heisman lists. He has cracked the top 5 in a bunch of those. His QBR is through the roof. And even in the Florida State game, which I don't think was on him at all in regards to not scoring points, but he was making some really nice reads, some really nice adjustments, seeing where a blitz was coming from, going right at it with a guy wide open, going from one side of the field to the other. The continued growth that we have seen from him has been fantastic. And then, of course, the offensive line just named to the Joe Moore, kind of mid-season
I
award,
know
which
you're
is
proud.
so proud, unbelievably proud of those guys. And they just look like a different team right now, which is fun to see.
We will get to the Deeks. I think the Deeks obviously coming off a win over NC State and a good win for them, feeling much better about what they can do. But for Clemson in this game, Mac, tell me if you buy into this. Because I think in previous years, you had a 4-team playoff, right? So if you're number 10 Clemson and you lost to Georgia but have won the rest of these games, and you're playing what is shaping up to be probably an even easier schedule than we thought it would be for the Tigers, with different teams falling off like Florida State and NC State. In years past, this game would be like, you need to go win it by 60. Like you need
Right.
to in order to climb back up into the mix. We have a 12-team playoff now. Like you just need to win. And that's what's so weird about this season right now for Clemson. It feels like they're playing teams that just can't beat them. And it also just feels like it's almost okay. Like you just need to keep winning. And yes, the winner of the ACC will get in. Can you afford to lose to Miami in the or whomever in the ACC championship and get in with 2 losses? I don't know. But the bottom line is, if you win out, your destiny is controlled. It just feels a little different than past years. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly why it feels so different to me this season.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you in the fact that it is different from that, right? And the things we're going to see, who we're going to see. I mean, there was such a shakeup last week with all these ranked teams losing. We thought we had a pretty clear picture, and that just got balled up and thrown away. So, I think there is something to, obviously winning all of them, but, even maybe more than ever, KG, because – if you're not just guaranteeing that they're going to win the ACC, you still got to look really good. You still have to have these foul points because you're going to be going against the SEC. You're going to be going against, the Big Ten for these bids, these other bids.
Maybe it's more important then. I don't know. Maybe it's the reverse.
Maybe it is. If you're not just outright winning, because, if you do that, you're in no matter what. So it is going to be interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see just how Clemson continues to get better because I think they're a team that's ascending. I think their best ball square ahead of them, with this defense and, getting that right and figure out what is the best fit for the guys that you have and what the product's going to look like. Because, right now it hasn't been the best, when you look at the different things that Clemson normally does and how they normally operate defensively.
I think we all pretty much believe that Clemson is going to win this game, barring something crazy. But if there is a way for Wake Forest to win this game, I think you obviously have to force some turnovers. That's what happened last year when Clemson was in its season of turnovers. They had 2 fumbles in this game, and that was huge. And then Damon Claiborne's the key, right, Mac? I mean, Damon Claiborne is special. He had a pretty good game against Clemson last year. He had a great game against NC State last weekend, 20 carries for 136 and 2 touchdowns. He's going to have to be the dude. And then Bachmeier's going to have to be better, right? He can't complete 50% of his passes for 150 yards. That is definitely not going to work. But this offense has to ride the back of Claiborne, and the defense, which it doesn't really feel like they can hold up. They're going to have to force turnovers. That's the absolute only way. And that might just get you to covering. I don't really see a path for Wake, to be honest. Sorry, Deeks.
Right. And the interesting thing about it, just with that, offensive tack that, again, I think is better. Now you have a couple guys out. It sounds like Green's not going to be able to go at the wide receiver position, who we feel so bad because we love that dude. And when he's on the field and when he's able to go, he truly is super special of a player. But when I look at this Clemson defense, how can they take advantage of him? They're in the bottom half, the bottom quarter of the ACC right now in regards to total yards and rushing yards and giving up and, all these different things. It reminds me of the 2000 Ravens. Like they'll bend, but they don't break. They're not letting you in the end zone. They're picking the ball off. They're making really opportunistic, turnovers, forcing those. But they're giving up a lot of chunky yards. And we saw that obviously the last 2 weeks. Stanford going up and down the field, couldn't get in the end zone. And then Florida State, you have a guy coming in, a freshman quarterback or a young quarterback that hasn't had a lot of success and goes for a career high, 230 something yards. So we'll see. I'm interested to see what this defense looks like. I will say this, though, historically. When Wake plays Clemson, Florida State, Miami, historically that mesh doesn't work because the penetration, the movement from the defensive line of those schools, particularly Clemson, just really messes up the flow of it, and you can't get a lot of stuff going. Now, we'll see. Again, you mentioned the success a couple of years ago, 50-point overtime game. Sam Hartman had a field day. I just don't know if that'll be the case or not this weekend.
There's no Sam Hartman. I'll say that. Do we think Clemson covers? I'm going to take Clemson to cover.
Are you? Whoa.
I am.
I think because of how below average Wake's defense has been, I'm with you. I think Clemson's able to do whatever they want and score a lot of points here.
All right, on to our next game. Cal, after a heartbreaker last weekend against Miami, will travel to number 22 Pittsburgh. This is a Saturday 3:30 p.m. game on ESPN. Pittsburgh is a 3.5-point favorite. The total's pretty high, Mac, at 59.5. Pitt leads the all-time series 3-2. These two have not played since 1966, Mac. It's been a
good year. It was a good year.
Yeah, I guess. It's been a minute since Cal and Pittsburgh have played. And you have so many factors here. Do we trust Pitt? That's kind of the question. They're ranked. They're 5-0. They went on the road and looked a bit shaky, but they beat UNC. And then for Cal, coming off the best offensive game they've played all season,
right?
But also, how do they mentally recover, Mac, from giving that game back and giving it away to Miami? There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there really is. And 2 games in a row now where you just felt like Cal should have won, could have won, and they didn't. Against Florida State, certainly 14-9. Ugh, just a gross game. And then, of course, Miami being up as many as 25 points at one point and can't get it done. So where are they mentally? I'm interested to see. Traveling back across the country up to Pittsburgh, doing all these things. I know that, these one-offs, we're like, oh, it's no big deal, but it's going to start adding up, I think. It is going to start playing a factor as we get deeper into this season. I have to think that, have to believe that. And again, just seeing what they look like because, offensively, as you mentioned, that was their best performance by far. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but it was a little fluky. It was a little bit of, how is this happening? What am I looking at? When you saw the chunk plays, the big plays, like if you look at the box score, Jay Knott had 5 rushing yards. If I see that, there's no way in heck I'm thinking Cal scores 30 plus. It's just, there's no possible way. But they did, and they picked up big yards, through the air, whether it was a dink and then take off or making some things happen downfield. I don't know if you get that lucky twice. And I think a little bit of the losing streak sets in. I think Pittsburgh is really good. I think this offense, the tempo, what we've seen from Eli Holsting and his running ability, but clearly what he does with his arm and just the versatility of weapons in space. I think that's hard back-to-back. Like Miami, obviously a different monster, and then these guys back-to-back at their house. I feel really good about Pittsburgh and them continuing their bout. They're battle-tested. You've got a couple of Big 12 teams. You had your first ACC game. You're scoring a ton of points. Just look like a different team. I think that Pitt wins this comfortably. I think that number is a little low, to be honest.
I think it is a little low, even though Cal looked great. Like, I get what you're saying, Mac, that game felt a little fluky, but it still happened. And they still put up all those points. My question for you, Mac, from a game plan perspective, we talked about how Cal got so many chunk plays because it felt like Miami brought the house and Cal got the ball out quick. Mendoza made really good decisions. He got the ball out quick to his athletes in space, and they were able to go. If you're Pittsburgh, even though we know they are known to be a very aggressive defensive team, Do you
Right.
blitz less? Do you just
Yeah.
kind of hang back and say, let's not give them a chance to have
Yeah. Yeah.
mismatches. Just beat our base defense, if you will.
Yeah.
That's at least where I would start because that's how Cal did it. They were
Right.
able to evade the blitz and just get the ball out quickly.
Well, at the end of the day, yeah, I hear totally what you're saying, but Pittsburgh's base defense is blitz, right?
I
Like
know that
that's what they're
that's
doing.
why that's why
Yeah.
I'm asking the question because it would be so
Right.
different for
Yeah.
Pittsburgh to do that.
It would be.
I guess
It
they
would be.
don't.
And it would be. Yeah. I think they do what they do. And, they're
Okay.
seventh right now in the ACC in sacks. They're right. They're seventh as well in interceptions. I mean, they're getting their hands on the football. They're sending, pressures. They're right in the middle of the pack with forced fumbles as well. They're going to play aggressive. Now, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, the calling card of this Pittsburgh team is the defense like it has been in prior
Correct.
years.
It's flipped.
But certainly it's just what they're going to do, and it's who they're going to be. We'll see. I mean, they love to play quarters. They love to play man, or play quarters, make it look like man. And they're going to do their thing. So I don't think they adjust. I think that they're confident in their game plan. And again, I don't know, Casey. I would be utterly shocked if Cal has the same type of success
Hmm.
offensively as they did against Miami. It was, I mean, I just was watching that like, how does this keep happening? How is this
Yeah.
happening? I mean, you're talking about multiple 50-yard completions, multiple 30-yard completions, something we have not seen all year. And it just so happened in their biggest game or most attention game, of the season.
Well, if it happens again, then maybe we say
And maybe I'll
it's
believe it.
maybe they because
Right.
they have been playing a good portion of the season without a healthy Jaden Ott until
Correct.
the game against Miami. Jaden Ott is a massive weapon for Cal. Desmond Reed is an
So good.
incredible weapon for Pittsburgh. He has just been all over the place, catching it, running it. He's so much fun to watch. Mac, I
Yeah.
know we're doing underdog in a second, but I will tell you, I'm still debating on my picks. But to me, the easiest pick of the whole weekend
You got one
is
for us? Come on.
Desmond Reed higher than .5 rushing or receiving touchdowns.
Oh
That
yeah.
is happening.
Great point. Great call.
That is
Great call.
happening. And if it was just rushing, maybe
Sure.
you shy away from it. But the fact that it's rushing and receiving, I absolutely love it. I
Load it up.
think I think Pitt gets it done. It feels like I'm still curious and wondering if I fully trust Pittsburgh, but
Hmm.
because of the situation Cal's coming off of and because of this new look Pittsburgh offense, I'm going to take Pitt. And I want to add this ridiculous stat that intern Nick gave us. Cal is 0-8 when allowing 22 or more points
Wow.
since the 2023 season. So over the last 2
Yeah.
years. They are
That'll do it
0-8 when allowing over 22 points per game. Pitt is going to score over 22 points in
for
this game.
sure. For sure. Yeah. I feel very confident in the number. I think, again, it's going to be a challenge. Eli Holstein going against this really good pass defense. I mean, they're number one, in
Yeah.
the conference up there in the country in passes intercepted. So you got to be careful. But I think that he finds a way. He's pushing the ball downfield. He's averaging like over 10 yards per an attempt, not per completion, per attempt. So he's going to do that. They're going to find their guys. They're going to do what they do. And again, I think they capitalize and stay on this win streak. They're streaking, baby.
6-0. Pitt, this would be if they no, sorry, they're 4-0. They are 5-0 for the first time since 1991. That's what I was trying to
Yeah.
say. They could start 6-0 for the first time since no idea. Probably forever ago. Okay, let's get to our third game in our big three breakdown, Mac. And we talked to a quarterback in this matchup on Wednesday. Syracuse is traveling to NC State. Syracuse, a 4.5-point favorite at NC State. 8 p.m. prime time on ACC Network. If you missed our interview with Kyle McCord, it was super fascinating. He really peels back the curtain on why he chose Syracuse and his relationship with Fran Brown, Anna Ronde Gadsden, and all these different types of things. Go listen to that or watch it. It's on all of our pages. But Mac, when I look at this game, it feels like a game that in the past, you see a 4-1 Syracuse heading into October and they find a way to lose it. I hate to be that harsh, but am I right, Mac? I mean, this is what we've always talked about. Syracuse gets off to these great starts. They're ranked, which they aren't ranked yet here, but that's what's happened. Why is
Right.
this going to be different, Mac? You tell me.
Well, that's what we're really interested in seeing, because
Yeah.
everything you just spelled out, and even though it looks dramatically different than it has when Syracuse does get off to these hot starts, and you feel really good about it, that is still pending. We're still waiting to see, because the schedule does not get any easier, for Syracuse when you see who they're playing, where they're playing them, and in the capacity. So this is what we're used to seeing. But I just have to think, when you have a quarterback like Kyle McCord, who is so special, so locked in, and really an electric player, you're going to be in a good spot. And so, how does he take advantage of this defense? That showed some spark that we've seen some from, but overall, just not what it's used to being.
Mm.
They're middle of the pack in pass defense. They haven't played somebody of this nature that's going to throw it 45 plus times, 50 plus times. He just threw it 60 last Friday night in Las Vegas. They're going to get the ball out and spreading it all around. So I think because of that, because of the weapons that you see, how they're playing, LaQuint Allen has just been really, really fun. I mean, undeniable last game. And I think that's how they want to use him, in regards to how many times they run him, how many times they
Yeah.
throw it to him. Get him out in space. He's such a ball player. And we have a lot of those in the
Yes, I'm
ACC. You
thinking
just
of
mentioned,
Desmond Reed and
yeah,
Jay
Desmond
Knott, as
Reed.
you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you see these guys here, what they're able to do. It's been fun. And so I expect Syracuse to do their thing. It's going to be fun to watch them in person. This line's at 3.5, and it actually has gone down half a point. It's opened at 4.
Is it
I
down
feel
to three and a
really
half?
confident. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing on
I
ESPN
just
Bet.
checked it. It was 4.5. What?
Money's
Oh
moving.
my
Money's
goodness.
moving.
That's
So
crazy to me.
I feel great about Syracuse. I think you take that. It's fall break. I mentioned that 100 times. Students probably aren't going to be there. It'll be interesting to see what the atmosphere is for a 3-3 team that probably a lot of people didn't expect to see that.
Yeah.
We'll see, but I feel really good about Syracuse.
Why is this moving? Vegas, what do you know? Mac, we're recording this around 2 p.m. I wrote down -4.5 at noon. That's
Money's
just
moving.
wild to me.
Money's moving a
Wow.
whole point.
Wow. And this is we're recording Thursday afternoon. Well, okay, speaking of the spread, Mac, NC State is 0-6 against the spread this season. Think about that. They have
Take all
yet to
your money.
cover against anybody.
Right.
And now
It's
Vegas
great.
is trying to move this number down. Vegas, you confuse me. I think when you look at this, Mac, obviously the main difference for me with these past Syracuse teams is that you have an offense. And you have a
Right.
really good offense. And you have a quarterback. I mean, you have a quarterback. That's really what it is. Kyle McCord, as we talked about on that episode we did with him, he ranks second in the nation in passing yards per game. He also leads the nation in completions per game. He's been throwing it a lot. And he has been super effective. To me, the only way NC State wins this game is, and I kind of said this with Wake and Clemson, it's the turnovers. If McCord throws 2 picks on the road,
Right.
and NC
Right.
State can score off of them and get some momentum. Another great stat from intern Nick. Since the beginning of the 2020 season, NC State is 21-1 when
Wow.
winning the turnover margin. So that is something to keep in mind. Generally, their defenses have been better than this one. That's something to be said. But
Yeah.
at home, when you can get big turnovers and capitalize, it's a game changer. All that
It
being
is.
said, I'm taking Syracuse. And I'm taking them to
There
cover.
we go. You were
Vegas,
tricking us for a second.
Vegas, you know nothing.
Yeah,
I'm
what the heck?
I'm just baffled. I'm
Maybe
baffled
they were
that
giving
number
us
keeps
easy.
dropping.
Maybe they wanted us all just to get a couple dollars.
You think they're just being nice? Oh,
They're just
Mac,
being
that's
nice.
so nice
Yeah.
of them. Wow, they're just so thoughtful. Okay, so you agree. You're with me.
I'm with you 100%. I feel good about it.
All right, before we get to our speed round, we got to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Use our code GMPOD for up to $1,000 in bonus cash. They are the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Get that app. They always have cool promotions going on, whether it's college football or NFL or anything else. The NBA is about to start up. Mac is apparently an elite Underdog Fantasy NBA player.
I'm back.
So
We're back, baby.
he could give you some of those numbers. He can give you Bronny James lower than 0.5 points or whatever it is. But why am I hating on Bronny on
Throwing
this episode?
strays to some little kid.
Yeah,
Man, that's crazy.
yeah. I'm so sorry, Bronny. I'm so sorry. But Underdog Fantasy, it's the place to go. And Mac and I have learned, we're going to make our picks and put them on socials so y'all can see them a little closer to kickoff so that we have all the numbers we want. But as I mentioned earlier, I have one that you absolutely have to do, and that is Desmond Reed higher than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. Mark it, book it. That's the one. Mac, if that one doesn't win, I'm out. You may never see me
You don't
again.
know what to do. Yeah, you don't know what to do. I'm with you. Well, let's go around the league a little bit, because this is one of my favorite things just to kind of look at, and it helps you analyze a little bit, because you're seeing what these guys know, and how do they always know? We don't know, but they do. In the Wake Forest Clemson game, we kind of alluded to it. Close your eyes, point at an offensive player, and take the over. I mean, just take it higher, whatever their
That's
points
bold.
are, whatever their number is. I just
All
have
of
to
them.
feel like they're going to do it. All of it. If you want to be risky, maybe I'll do it. Who knows?
I will
Maybe
say,
I will.
Mac, the one thing you have to be careful with on Underdog, this is just my advice. It's the touchdowns, right? Because there is only one football. Like Antonio
right.
Williams could have 100 yards receiving, but no touchdowns. So just keep in mind. Say that.
Yeah, I do relatively tend to shy away from those, unless it's a Cade Klubnik rushing touchdown. Ding,
True.
ding, ding.
Or
Go ahead.
Desmond Reed,
Dial
like I
that
said.
up. Yeah, dial those up. But 267 and a half higher, lower, Cade Klubnik. Hammer it.
I like that as
Phil
well.
Maffa's a little high. Phil Maffa's at 97 and a half rushing yards. I might wait on that one, just see what happens over the weekend. That'll probably go down a little bit. You can get a little bit of value there. Bryant West goes on here. Antonio Williams, wherever you want to kind of go, do it. Hammer it down, make it happen there. You look at Georgia Tech and and North Carolina. This one's going to be interesting, because you've got a really physical team, in Georgia Tech that's going against these guys. I tend to like the rushing here. So you can go with a rushing touchdown, with Haynes King, higher, lower than 0.5. So if you think he'll score a touchdown, go higher. Jamal Haynes is at 69 and a half, higher, lower rushing yards. I think you go higher. I think that guy's going to do it. Another guy who you can just kind of bet on it is Amarian Hampton, rushing or receiving touchdown, 100 yards rushing. It's just what they do. That's what North Carolina does. They're going to give him the ball and get out in space and make some things happen. One more that I was really interested in is Cal and Pitt. And you mentioned Desmond Reed already. Hit that. And it's actually only a 0.7 multiplier. So they agree with you. They think he's going to score, but they're going to give you a little something. Eli Holsting is at 284 right now, higher, lower.
Ooh.
That'll be an interesting number to see if that gets affected. Where does that go? We'll have all our picks this weekend. Check it out on social media. You guys can dive in there, jump in with us, go over to Underdog Fantasy, use our code GMPOD, give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Come and hang out with us and show us your picks. I want to see what everyone else is doing out there too.
Love it, Mac. All right, speed round. Let's get to these three other games. Louisville is at Virginia. I am going to be locked into this game, as you know, because of my Who's. Louisville is a 7.5 point favorite, 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. I think this game is actually going to be a very sneaky good game. I forgot, Mac, that Virginia and Louisville, they've met every single year since Louisville's joined the league. So they're very familiar with each other, even though we have two relatively new staffs at both places. And since Louisville joined the ACC, they are 6-4 against Virginia, and they've won the last two. So they've had pretty good success. Louisville on the road, I have some question marks there. They've been much better at home. Louisville coming off two brutal, tough losses. Where is this locker room? I think we're going to learn a lot about Jeff Brom's culture and how they have been able to right the ship, get back on track, and just find a way, because they haven't played poorly. They've played pretty well. They've lost two straight games by a touchdown in each game, and they've lost to two pretty good teams, two top 25 teams. All that being said, Mac, I ride with the Who's. I'm taking Virginia. I'm taking Virginia to cover the 7.5. I like that. You know what? Heck yeah. I'm taking Virginia. I took them last week to beat BC, and here I am again. Wahoo wah, baby. Let's go.
Back. We're so back. I've got some breaking news for you. I'm with them too. I think they're covering that. 7.5 is a big number.
Are you picking them to win?
No, I'll just say points. I'll just say points. But nobody has to know that. They won't see it. They'll just see a name by an icon, and they'll say, "Yeah, this guy ride or die with the Wahoos."
Ride or die.
I think you're seeing Tyler Shuck go against another good quarterback, younger guy. We saw that last week, and Kevin Jennings at SMU. And Kevin Jennings probably won the quarterback battle. So what are they going to be able to do? Is Calandre going to be able to step up? Who's coming off a battle with Tommy Castellanos and got it, the best over him. I think this is a big culture win opportunity for Virginia. And as you mentioned, same thing for Louisville, flexing their muscles. What do you do? How do you respond after you go down, 2 games in a row? Only one of those is a conference game. You have a brutal schedule the rest of the way. You can still relatively control everything that you want to. You play Miami, you play Clemson. Might even play Pittsburgh. Let me click on this and see here. You do. You play all 3 of those guys. So you have a real chance to still control what you want to control, what you want to do, and we'll see. I think defensively, I've been a little bit disappointed in this team. Probably thought that they were going to be a little better. I remember preseason, KG, I was kind of out on Louisville, and then I started really diving into the defense and what I thought it was going to look like. And I said, man, this team has a shot. And it hasn't been because of them quite yet. So we'll see if they can figure it out. It's a long season. We got a ways to go. But I feel really good about Virginia. I really do.
The defense needs to get right for Louisville. That was my main critique against SMU is I thought this defense was going to be more impactful. And we haven't seen it yet from Louisville. All right, Mac, 2 more games here. How is Georgia Tech only a 5-point favorite at North Carolina, noon on CW? Vegas, what do you know? Gosh, they're driving me crazy this week. They're giving me a lot of doubt in my heart.
Yeah, in your picks.
Games. Yeah. I'm nervous, Mac, but another a couple amazing notes here from intern Nick. We know this, of course, Jeff Collins facing his old team. That's fascinating. Jeff Collins, of course, the DC for UNC. UNC has not beat Georgia Tech in Chapel Hill since 2016. What? And they would play there every other year forever because they were both in the Coastal.
Wow.
And then the other great storyline in this game, Georgia Tech has the number 1 rush defense in the ACC, and North Carolina has Amarian Hampton, a ram, a literal ram, playing for the Ram. He's a literal ram. I'm going to take Georgia Tech. I'm going to take Georgia Tech to cover. I trust Georgia Tech in what they're doing, their culture, their quarterback situation, all this. I feel like the crowd at noon is going to be sus. I'm using sus way too much. People hate in the comments. I get it. But that's how I feel. Why is Georgia Tech only a 5-point favorite, Mac? I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't either. Shout out to the chat, by the way. What's up, guys? Great to see everybody.
Kelly does not know ball.
Yeah. Or does. It depends on what you say and who you say it to. And it can be the same thing to the same group of people. I don't know. I'm right there with you. How about this? This is what I want to see. I want to see Georgia Tech continue to own the line of scrimmage like they have, offense and defensively. A really big challenge this week, right? You're going against one of the best running backs in the country in Amarian Hampton and a team that's going to give it to him. He has 137 carries, and he's going to probably have 30 more this week. They're going to hand him the ball and let him do his thing. So what can you do defensively, kind of knowing that? And Georgia Tech, I want to continue to see Haynes push the ball downfield. We haven't seen that a ton this year, and I think their receivers are excellent. You've got some really talented guys out there. You get Jamal Haynes involved in the receiving game. I want to see a little bit more of that, where they can push that ball and Haynes kind of do his thing there. So I think they well cover this. It is interesting. The lines moved down. It opened at 6, and actually I just clicked on it. It's moved down to 4. It's at 4 right now. KG.
Get out of here.
I think I don't know if I'm with that. I think that Georgia Tech covers. I'm with the Yellow Jackets.
Something's going on. Something's going on, Mac.
Something's
I don't know what's
going
on. Something's going on in Vegas. And I also hate that we agree on all these, but that's where we are. That's where we are. All right, our last game. Stanford travels to number 11, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 23-point favorite. Last I looked, but Vegas be wild, and I don't know. 3:30 p.m. on NBC. Ashton Daniels is back, per Troy Taylor, so at least Stanford has their quarterback back. No. Notre Dame has looked good the last couple of weeks. It feels like maybe they've turned a corner. I'm going to take Stanford to cover. I think 23 is a lot of points. And if Ashton Daniels wasn't playing, absolutely not. But because he's back on the road here, I'll take Stanford to cover. But I also took him to cover last week, and that didn't work.
Right. Well, I mean, there's such a different team with Ashton. So, I mean, it's
completely different. Yeah.
Extremely fair to have thought that, not kind of knowing yet if he was in, was he out, what's the deal? You just have to think he's going to be the guy. What I do think is fascinating, KG, is you look at this game and both quarterbacks are clearly the leading passer, but also the leading rusher for this team. This is going to be a game of quarterback control. What do the guys want to do? Riley is a little bit dominant. He has over 120 more yards, has 7 touchdowns to Ashton Daniels 0. But Ashton's been throwing the ball a little bit more efficient into the end zone. So we'll see. I think 23 is way too big. I think Cardinals, the Cardinal, hangs around, does their thing, but maybe it's 20, right? Maybe they win by 20, not 23. That's a big number.
I tend to think so, but who knows? I mean, maybe Notre Dame has kind of turned a corner. I just in a rivalry game situation, Ashton Daniels back, hopefully feeling fresh. Hopefully
We'll see.
dealing with injuries though. Well, I'll take Stanford to cover. But Mac, it'll be a short and sweet weekend. So we'll have a recap on Monday and then back at it. Even more games next week.
Here we go. All right. Like we said, guys, go check out our picks on social media. Probably be there Friday night, Saturday morning. Who knows? Depends when you listen to this, when you'll see it or not. I'm going to ride this thing out, I think, a little bit. I want to see how these numbers move as we get closer and then kind of make some of those picks there. But we appreciate you tuning in as always. OGs, we need your support. Apple Podcasts, SiriusXM, subscribe, jump in there, do your thing. And, of course, over on YouTube, come watch the party. We have a good time. Jump in the chat. Tell Kelly and I how we do not know ball or we do know ball. We appreciate both and always appreciate your guys' support. But until next time, we'll see you.